welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me is Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. And yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about our conversation today. So what's our topic?
So, everything in your life serves a purpose. Did you know that, Steve?
I did not know this. See, I
It's
learned
there
something
for
new
a
every
reason.
week.
Yeah, everything that happens in your life is there for a reason. You don't need to know what those reasons are because it can be really overwhelming. But if something keeps entering your life and your life experiences, there is a significant reason why. Pay attention to it because it's asking you to. And it's really funny, how we say that we wish we didn't have to deal with something, or
Mm-hmm.
um, we plan our lives so hopefully we have control over that which we plan. And just a quick story, I remember doing training years and years ago, and my teacher was also my mentor. He was just an amazing man. And I had the day from hell the day before I walked into class. And he just looked at me and he knew some of what I was dealing with. I think Michael had some huge issues with after one of his surgeries. I was dealing with my ex-husband. It was just a nightmare. And Jim came up to me and said, "Okay, I could see in you that you're dealing with all kinds of stuff." I said, "Yeah, I am." And there comes a time where you just have it up to here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he looks at me, he goes, "Hot dog and opportunity." I said, "A few less hot dogs in my life would be very appreciated right now." And he just started to laugh. He said, "Everything you're going through is an opportunity." And I realize you're dealing with like five things at the same time. And I'm not going to tell you, life only hands you what you could deal with. He didn't believe in that either. But I will tell you that you're going to see what you're made of, and you're going to know exactly how resilient you are.
Yeah.
You're going to learn more about yourself in these situations than ever before. Pay attention to them. Be happy, even though you hate what you're dealing with. Be happy that you have the opportunity to get on the other side of this, and be very proud of yourself when you do. I'll never forget that conversation. We're talking 30 years ago,
Yeah.
if not more. So, there you go. Everything in your life serves a purpose.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you can't wish things not to happen, right?
Yeah.
So how does that apply to you?
So, I took it a little bit differently. I looked at, I think probably over the last 10 or 15 years, really paid attention to messages and things that pop up with regularity. And like you said, I think it's those situations are telling you, hey, pay attention, look over here. There's a reason. And I have a really weird, I'll give you a very weird example, but and maybe somebody, one of our listeners out there or one of our viewers from YouTube or Facebook could actually shed some light on this. But I have a recurring number that pops up in my life and has for probably a dozen or more years, and it's 316. I look at the clock, completely unconsciously at that time. It doesn't matter whether I'm at my desk, whether I'm in the car, or I'm driving somewhere and I happen to see it on a bank, sign, flashing the time. Or it pops up in all these weird ways in different things. The other day I had, I get a crazy amount of email, but in my inbox, it was flashing, you have 316 emails. And I'm like, there it is, and I see it in news stories. I see it in, billboards. I know that there are folks that think there's a lot of religious connotation to that number, but it's interesting because what it has done is more than a passing interest. It's actually sort of, stimulated this sort of fire in my belly to figure out what it really means. What is it for my life? What does it, what's the intention behind it? And like I said, it's a dozen or more years that this has occurred. I still have no answers, but I laugh every single time I see it. And now it's kind of a joke. I was sitting in a coffee shop waiting for someone to come show up the other day. And it's probably been 2 weeks ago, but I flipped over my phone just to see, how close to the 3:30 it was going to be, and it was 3:16, and I just started laughing, which kind of tickled the lady that was next to me, like, what's funny? And I said, oh, it's kind of an inside joke. And she's like, well, is it a dirty joke? I mean, so I had to tell her, and she's like, that's really strange. And she said, but I have, a color that shows up in my life, for various things that I would never have expected. But she's talking about how this color just pops up, and it's not a very common color. And I mean, it was some sort of word version of the color that I had never heard of. But she said, I see it everywhere. I see it, it's popped up. I just actually saw a car that was painted it. She's like, I just don't know what it means. And I'm like, well, I can't tell you what my number means. So I don't know what your color means, but it obviously means we should be paying attention. And maybe it's just a reminder to not take yourself so seriously, or to stop and just pause for that, just brief second, and be grateful that you're alive, or but that you've got whatever opportunities are in your life right now, or whatever you should be grateful for. Maybe that's the opportunity. She's like, I'm going to use that. I like that. I'm like, well, hey,
Very good.
there's no guarantee that's what it is, but that's my theory anyway.
Have you thought of looking at numerology and typing in the number there?
I have, and I've done a couple of small ventures into that. I know Dr. Asha, who my other podcast co-host, has tried to give me some downloads relative to that, but none of them seem like really. When I read those things, they don't really seem to. It doesn't feel in my gut like that's what that meaning is,
It
which
doesn't fit.
is kind of still neat, because I feel like I'm still searching for, okay, what's the purpose?
I'll tell you what I tell a lot of people. Sometimes we need to live in the questions, and there isn't an answer.
Yep.
And that in itself is something that we live in so many different ways. Like the dilemma questions, the, why does this happen to me kind of questions that there are no answers for. And to live in the question is coexisting with something that you don't have an answer to, which is a good portion of our lives if you think about it. This is a number, yes, there's no question. It would be interesting to find out the why behind it.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't let it freak you out is fantastic. You know, like this is more, you have five people telling you that you would be fantastic at doing something, or 10 people saying that at different times, not all at the same time. Why
Yeah.
don't you start your own business? This would be phenomenal. And rather than pick their brains, what does it look like to you? You just discount it and you say, "Oh, why me? Why me?" And I'll just go on my merry way and continue on the job that I
Or just
have
say
right
how
now.
nice that was for you to say that, but then you move on and not ever say, hey, I should pursue that career, or write that book, or do that speech, or whatever.
Exactly right. And if you have to be convinced, then you're already behind the eight ball. That's not what we're talking about here. It's all these clues. Now, I joke with people, if you have 10 people at different times telling you you're stubborn as hell, then you might want to listen to them. I don't go into your stubborn, like judgmental comments.
Right.
Often they're so stubborn, it's illustrated as they fight you in even sharing that. They won't even
Yeah.
look at that. You might want to look, if you hear things from multiple people, multiple situations get you into the same kind of jam, that kind of thing, you just might want to pay attention, because it's not that everything has a reason. It serves a purpose.
Yeah.
There's a difference. That purpose is to redirect you, help you open your eyes to something.
Yeah.
That's where we're going with this. And we allow so many opportunities to slip through our fingers because we're not aware enough in the moment when they happen, and
Yeah.
then they're gone.
Yeah.
They're just gone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I for a few years, what I used to look at when that would pop up was, it was my reminder that I needed to find three people to create one positive ripple for each. And then I had this long held belief that by doing so, I was actually affecting six people. Because if you created a big enough ripple, that person's going to tell at least one other person. And if you've got, six people that are like, oh my gosh, this thing happened because this guy did this, or this action got taken, or this ripple was created, then you start looking at, the real impact that you could potentially have out there in the world. And I kind of held on to that for a while, and still to this day, really, have I created three positive things for people today, and try and make an individual impact on each of those individuals. That's where I got the one. And then I had somebody I did it for, and I was like, I think I was gelling pretty well, right, with that concept, until this, one individual said, "Oh my God, I told like 20 people what you did." It's like, no, you're messing up my
Exactly.
number here. You
That's
can only
right.
tell one. So anyway, it was, it's just kind of an interesting take on it. But to your point, right, it pops up, and I do believe that it pops up as even though I'm still searching for what that true answer is, for me right now, how I've chosen to utilize it is to stop and recognize it in the moment, allow it to give me sort of a giggle. And then it is that constant reminder. Have I actually done my effort today? Have I done that ripple that I really should be trying to create for people? Am I living in my truth? Right. And so, like you say, living in the questions where, why does this keep popping up for us? Why, what am I, what is it trying to tell me? What am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to experience? How can I leverage this to my benefit? Those are all questions that, in those moments when those things appear, are great questions to start asking, because you just may find you don't have the answer today, but you ask that tomorrow and you might.
So, a question to our listeners: how often does something like this happen to you? Something that's
Yeah.
repetitive that you absolutely negate or don't pay attention to? Now that we're talking about this, could you take a moment and stop and think, when has this happened to me and what did I do with it?
Yep.
Did I honor it showing up in my life? What do you think the purpose is of it? And rather than discount it, oh, it's just a coincidence, that kind of answer, is it really a coincidence? Coincidence. Ask yourself these questions because it speaks to awareness. How aware are you of yourself and the world around you? And how do you process these things that are not explainable? Does it discombobulate you, or does it give you a chuckle like it does
Yeah.
you? Like, what does it do for you, and what do you think it's trying to tell you about yourself? That would be great to hear. So
Yeah.
when we post this, I'd love to hear from our
I would
audience
too. I think that would
what
be
their response is to
It'd be
that
really
kind of thing.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and what are those things that pop up for everyone? I mean, I think that would be interesting, because I think it's something different for all of us, right? What is it for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, I'll creep you out here. When Ray and I are driving at like just after dusk, when the street lights go on,
Hmm.
and as we're driving down, the street lights go off.
That time.
As we're passing, the lights are on. As we're about to pass them, they start going off and turning off. And that creeps Ray out to no end.
Ah, really?
Yeah,
I mean, he hasn't figured out after all these years that you've got a remote control in your purse. I
yeah, right.
mean,
Can't figure that one out.
that.
And it
Oh my god.
happens often. Yeah, it happens often.
So,
So
do you remember the first time we met each other, and we were at that conference, and
I'm
do
speaking
you
at
do
Mind
you
Your Own
remember what
Business.
actually happened when we went to the dinner?
We went to the dinner.
Yeah, so remember when Kathy Buckley was going to speak? She was the comedian for that night. She
That's
was
the second time I met you.
Yeah, that's the second time. But yeah, the one
Yeah.
I'm thinking of was at that resort, and you
Oh, in
walked in and the lights
Albuquerque.
went out.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. I mean, there's so many ways you could leverage that power.
Yeah. I'd like to turn it the other way around when the power goes off to be able to turn it back on
Yeah,
again. That'd
yeah,
be kind of
yeah.
nice.
You
Yeah.
just need to find your doppelganger who brings you've got the negative energy to turn it off. They got to have the positive, and then collectively, you guys could really do some damage.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Something like
So I
that.
had
Yeah.
no idea that was that. That's interesting. See, our audience is going to learn so much about us.
Yep.
Oh,
Most
that
of
well.
our
So
research,
I
our
mean, I
listeners
think
are sure.
getting
So,
back to the larger point, right? At the end of the day, I think these things appear when they appear, for us to take notice of them, and like you said, figure out what they mean in that moment if you can, or at least be, utilizing it as an opportunity or a reminder to, to keep searching, to keep looking and
Reflect.
exploring.
Take a moment, reflect on
Yeah.
it. Come up with your own meaning. Doesn't matter. Take a moment and look at yourself in the context of what you're living.
Yep.
And what is it? Might just be the universe pressing the pause button, getting you to take a breath, to
Maybe.
pause.
I
Because
mean,
every
that's
time you
true.
see 316, you pause, right? You
Yep.
acknowledge, which
You
makes
do.
you pause.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just that. Like you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one
That's
day
right.
you will, maybe one day you won't.
And if you don't, that's okay.
Yep.
Just let it keep happening. Let Donna keep turning those lights off as she goes.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a funny, but I don't know if you would have the reference point, but you probably do because I'm sure Canadians really hate this movie. But Strange Brew, Bob and
No,
Doug
I never heard
McKenzie.
of it.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, maybe this whole thing led me to this podcast with my friend in Canada, and I'm supposed to watch that movie for 316 times.
Oh, gee. Okay, so what's it called again?
Strange Brew.
Strange
It
Brew. I'll
it's
look it up.
yeah, Bob and Doug McKenzie. That
Okay.
Rick Moranis is the actor, but
Yeah. I
it's
know
a
who the
hilarious. I mean, it
Yeah.
was hilarious when I was in eighth grade. I don't know if, but I watched that movie so many times that I wore out the VCR tape on it. I loved it so much.
That in itself is dating you.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I think the first version we had was on beta. If that tells you one thing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Sometimes.
that now I'm actually thinking that might be the whole reason I'm supposed to watch that movie 316 times too, because you led me down this Canadian path. So,
Oh, right. My fault. I'll take. Yeah.
well, this has been a fun fun episode. I mean, we talk about some heavy things occasionally. This is kind of it's heavy, but it's also fun because I think everybody, at least, folks that I've talked to all have something, right? That just is this reoccurring theme or situation that pops up in their life. And we'd love to hear from our audience as to what that is for them. And like you said, I mean, we'd really, I'm intrigued because I think everybody has one thing that sort of is that way. So Donna, how do people get in contact with us and kind of share those things with us, as well as maybe give us some ideas and thoughts that they'd like us to explore in a future episode?
Best place is our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. You could find us at the same name under our YouTube channel. And post comments there. Let us know what you want us to talk about, what your thing is, from today's show. And all of our episodes are posted on there. So you could see some of our past ones as well. And all podcast channels, we're on all of them pretty much. Or get the King of Ripple, Steve Harper, at ripplecentral.com. And I'm at donnacarlin.com, Carlin with a K, and just reach out. It would be great to hear from you.
Yep, it absolutely would. Well, Donna, thanks for today. This is always, it's such a great time. It's a highlight of my week. I really appreciate these conversations, the opportunity to have them with you, and look forward to our next conversation.
You have a great one.
You too.